the AFC North, to me, Ryan, the toughest division in football, bar none. You could make a case for any of these teams to win the playoffs. Here's what I got. I got the Cincinnati Bengals winning the division at 12-5, getting the tiebreaker over the Baltimore Ravens at 12-5. I've been, as much as it sickens me as a Steelers fan, it's very high on Baltimore's moves, particularly the new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, coming in. I mean, the man made Stetson Bennett look like, actually turn him into a Heisman candidate, and then we see Stetson Bennett in the preseason look pretty rough. I got my Steelers going 11-6 ever since I chose them as my new lifelong NFL team. I said they go 11-6. Kenny Pickett would have a 28-touchdown season. George Pickens would have a mass year for him. The Browns finishing at 7-10. Deshaun has had a rough preseason, rough training camp. I have questions, regarding whether or not he can get back to the old Houston Deshaun. So I almost took Baltimore. I almost took Pittsburgh to win the division over Cincinnati, but I'm like, you know what? I can't discount the fact that Cincinnati has clearly the second best quarterback in football. Offensive line's better. Weapons are there. And defensively, albeit they lost their two starting safeties from last year. I think that the pass rush is very good. So I went with Cincinnati and Baltimore and then Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So I don't know if I've seen any two predictions for this AFC North, at least in the national media, that are exactly the same. It's so hard to predict. Do you have a a pulse on
you know what?
On here?
That's a good question. Like I picked Steelers to win the division last year. That didn't work out for me, obviously, right?
Sure.
Like you said, this is a tough division, and the biggest wild card to me is the Baltimore Ravens because of their health concerns. If Lamar Jackson can stay upright and play healthy, or stay healthy, they're going to be one of the most potent offenses that we have in the National Football League, alongside with Odell Beckham. We don't even know what Odell Beckham is anymore at this point. And I know people might call me a hater, and I've been on it, but listen, he's older. I still think he has juice left in the tank. Yeah. But is he still the same OBJ that we're so used to seeing? And I know the last time we saw him play, he was phenomenal in the Super Bowl. But that's 2 years now? So
year and a half ago, yep.
Year and a half ago, right? So as far as your picks are concerned, I like the Bengals. They're the reigning champs in this division. I think Pittsburgh and Baltimore will duke it out. I'm going to give the slight edge to Baltimore, though, just because the quarterback, Kenny Pickett, he's still a young guy. Lamar Jackson's proven. I'm not a big Lamar Jackson fan. I know, so I get a lot of hate for that. But he's a former NFL MVP. I'll respect him for that. And he's done a lot of good things in the league so far with his legs. So just because of that, I will give them the slight edge. But I would not be surprised if the Steelers push for that second spot. There's going to be 3 teams coming out of this division for the playoffs. I don't think there's any debate in that. I think these guys those 3 teams are all locked in. Cleveland, I think it's the whole Deshaun Watson thing. It's a wrap for him. I don't feel in my whole conscience that he will be the same guy he was in Houston. I think missing that time off really hurt him, and it shows. He's had a full off season, and he really didn't look good at all the times that we did see him in preseason. I get it, preseason, but it's so sad for Cleveland because for a couple of years now, they've had literally one of the best rosters on paper. And
certainly offensively, yeah.
Offensively, like, you list some of those guys, you're like, this team should be, going deep into the playoffs. And they did that 1 year with Baker, but I feel bad for that franchise. I feel bad for their fans because I know a lot of people that support the Browns, and I'm just like, dang, you guys just can't get it right. And when they gave Deshaun Watson that money, it was a terrible mistake. They're locked in with him, and I don't think he's the same. I don't even think if I can, and I'm holding you up here, but
sure, go ahead.
If I can go back a couple years ago, I didn't even think he was that good in Houston. A lot of people had him as, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm like, I don't know, man. I really didn't see it. Maybe I'm blind. Maybe I'm a bozo. I'm a clown, whatever you want to call me. But I really did not think he was the best quarterback in the state of Texas at the time when he was in Houston. So,
right.
But that's just my thoughts on that. But no, other than this, I agree with the predictions for the most part.
Yeah, and I think also too for you mentioned Lamar Jackson, and I've been a huge Lamar defender. I was one of the people beating on this table for a year, for him to get paid. But this is kind of the first year where the pressure is on Lamar in this regard. In that we criticize the former offensive coordinator Greg Roman. Well, you bring in more of a pass heavy offensive coordinator. Offensive line is amazing. You have J.K. Dobbins, who's an excellent running back. You bring in OBJ. I think Zay Flowers is going to be tremendous in the NFL. You have Mark Andrews. Defense played out of their minds at the end of the season, and John Harbaugh is obviously one of the better coaches in the league. So this is, especially in this division, I think there's a lot of eyeballs on Lamar Jackson to get it done. Even if the Ravens don't win this division, again, it's a brutal division, but if they can get in the playoffs, maybe win a game or even two, they're good enough to do that. That's going to be huge for Lamar. But listen, I think for my Steelers, look, I've said George Pickens has a massive year. I think T.J. Watt, I think we went 8-2 last year with him in the lineup. So Kenny Pickett played better at the end of the year. He's been amazing.
He's got to stay healthy too.
He's got to stay
healthy too.
Got to stay healthy for sure, no question about it. My only concern with Pittsburgh is the offensive line. That's been a concern of theirs the last few years, but I think they have addressed it. It's certainly, and to a certain degree this offseason. Let's see, we've got some comments. Obviously, complete objectivity by the Ravens fan in the building, by our man Devin. He says, Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, Browns. So he's only switching the top two. I can see it. There's a world in which Baltimore wins the division. I would not be shocked if, in the season. Neither. They've got just as good of a roster. Cincinnati, you could argue top to bottom. Obviously, quarterback, that's where the gap is. But you could argue roster top to bottom. There's not that big of a gap. You could arguably give it to Baltimore. So that would not surprise me. Darian Hopkins says, this is tough, but 11-6 in like that for the Steelers. He agrees with this order. And then Devin says, I think Zay and Bateman will benefit from OBJ. Yeah, veteran leadership. Plus, I think OBJ benefits from those guys in the same way he benefited, from Cooper Kupp in Los Angeles, making his job easier in that regard. Patrick says this is the UFC division. Bengals 13-4, Ravens 12-5, Steelers 10-7, Browns 7-10. I guess so. Our predictions are almost lockstep there. Patrick says 2018-19 Deshaun was pushing top 7 quarterbacks in the league. Since then, little to be desired. No question about that. And
that's a long time ago.
Very long time ago. And Darian says, Ravens got to stay healthy if they want to win this division. That's the key for them because they probably could have won the division last year. And remember,
they were healthy.
If it's not for that quarterback fumble on the sneak at the 1-yard line, that playoff game, we might be having a very different conversation about the Cincinnati Bengals coming into the season. The Ravens pushed them. There's that divisional familiarity. It's a very real thing. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.